Hello and welcome to Lockdown Dads. I'm James Miller, author of Dads Don't Babysit, editor of workingdads.co.uk and father of two children who are aged 12 and 9. Each week we aim to bring you an interesting and engaging conversation about life as a dad in lockdown. And as ever, I am joined by Ian Dinwiddie.
Hi everyone, yep, my name's Ian, I'm a coach and I've got two kids. I've got a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. This week I'm really pleased to be joined by a man who I really admire. I really admire the way he engages with his audience. I really admire his niche, and I really admire how he goes about what he does. So this week our guest is Fidel Beauhill, and he is the modern man coach. Fidel, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. That's right up there with one of the best introductions I've ever had. He's just really handsome in there as well. We would won a prize.
For those of you on the podcast, you'll need to go over to YouTube and go back to the links and find out whether that's true. Fidel, thank you very much for being here. The first question we ask all our guests is, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Isn't that what an automatic response that was? Do you know, isn't it? Do you know, don't we all just do that? You know, don't we all just do that? I'm fine. I'm dandy. Actually, I am really good at the moment, but it has been a roller coaster. I'm not going to pretend. I think it's quite funny how lots of people are fronting it out, aren't they? And insisting that it's all been a good time. Like I'm a master coach. You know, I know how to manage myself and my mental well-being, and I have still had moments of just total confusion, despair, crying. Do you know what I mean? I've been through it all. Okay. So my skills have allowed me to pull myself out of it, possibly a bit quicker and a bit more comprehensively than your average person. But man. I've had a particularly testing time during lockdown of kind of on my own. So I'm, as you guys said, I'm also a father. I have 3 daughters, 20, 17 and 13.
Just checking.
So my 13-year-old comes and goes. So I've had her pretty much every week, every Monday and Tuesday and every other weekend. So she comes, but she's 13. So she's not exactly much sort of company, although it's a lot easier than having little kids for sure. She doesn't require a lot of attention, but that's also a downside. So I felt very lonely as an extrovert. I've had all of my kind of like external stuff taken away from me. You know, the things I normally do. I train a lot. I box competitively. So my gym's been closed. My best mate who lives around the corner and my boxing coach, who's like my kind of mental and emotional sort of sparring partner as well as physical. He's been locked down in Florida, so I haven't seen him. I have got lots of friends, so my friendship group has been a lifesaver. I'm friends with a lot of guys who I went to school with. We have a WhatsApp group, and we've been doing a lot of house parties. And in the height of it, we were on there every night, and that's been a real lifesaver for me. But yeah, it's been difficult. I had a relationship breakdown at the beginning of lockdown, which was really, really tough. It was a very, very, very kind of difficult one as well. So like my life was kind of perfect. I'm rattling on a little bit. My life was kind of perfect before lockdown happened. Beautiful girlfriend, business absolutely flying, boxing, fitness, I was traveling, everything was on point and I was really happy. And then when it all happened, everyone was like, oh, what's been, some of these things are really good. And I was just like, nah, there's nothing positive in lockdown for me whatsoever. There's nothing has been better. Don't get me wrong, we'll come on to it a little bit later. I have taken some lessons and some of it has been amazing, but it certainly hasn't been an improvement for me. I am not gonna lie.
Fair enough. I think that honesty is admirable, and I think and part of it I think is what you're mentioning there is the fact that it came out of nowhere as well. I think, like you say, you know, everyone was just bowling along in January and February, and of course nobody could have foreseen that suddenly bang, everything just stopped. I mean, it's just
I said my mate who got locked down in Florida, he had a boxing match. And then got on a plane a couple of days later and flew off to a 3-week yoga trainers retreat and an ashram in Florida. And literally over that, no one had heard of COVID-19 by the time he got off a plane. By the time he'd finished his retreat, he couldn't leave the country.
Yeah, wow. Florida's not a good place to be locked down.
No, especially not in a weird ashram. It all turned into a bit of a cult and he had to do a midnight escape. That's another story.
We haven't got time for that one. He sounds like we need to get him on.
Potential future guest. I like the sound of him.
Definitely.
How have you been this week, Ian? Let's check in with you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest as well. It's been a bit rubbish. We went out for pub lunch on Sunday actually, which was good. Really enjoyed that. Just kind of normal. It just felt nice, and it was pretty much exactly 4 months I think since we last went out as a family. So that was really really good. But two things happened this week. One, the printer broke without any warning. Our printer basically said, "Nah, it needs to be sent for a service. Won't print anymore." And that was cued this kind of manic sort of Tuesday afternoon trying to work out where you get a printer from. And printers are like toilet paper. You can't actually get them. I don't think anyone's hoarding them. That is one thing.
Why it's broken. That's why it's broken if you've been using it like toilet paper.
Well, yeah. Yeah, maybe I was using one, but you can't get them. So I spent a good hour and a half driving around sort of southeast London a bit, tried a couple of PC Worlds, and no printers. Then we ordered one that's vastly over spec'd for what we need. And then my wife found that despite the manual efforts of our IT support, she can't actually download the drivers. So she can't actually use this printer, which is a bit of a disaster. I didn't think I could either. God, that was just ridiculous. I had to download drivers. It's just ridiculous. So apparently it's a really good printer, but we don't need a really good printer. We just needed one that will work with my wife's work. So now she's trying to work out what they need to bypass. So that was bad. The other thing, hey, I laugh about it. Apparently, according to Barclaycard, I spent £760 in Hobbycraft on Tuesday, which didn't happen. I want to put it on record. This did not happen. I don't know how you spend £760.
You can tell us the truth, Ian.
Yeah, it's a lot of hobby. I mean, I don't know.
Material, you're making a lot of masks with that. You make that back easily.
Anyway, so credit cards. We had to cancel the credit cards, and I have no idea. It's probably not even Hobbycraft. It says it's Hobbycraft on the on the statement. So so that's been a delight. But it's Friday. Things are looking up. I spent a bit of time in the garden with my daughter planting some flowers and things that we bought, and it's getting better. It's been a bit weird this week. I just thought, not something else. So yeah.
Is there a COVID hangover there? And that both of those things would clearly be a fag and be stressful at the best of times. But do you think because you've had 4 months of being locked down that they are more, they become more of an issue than they might otherwise?
There's nothing more stressful than a printer.
Yeah, the printer. Well, usually the printer would be, it breaks, £40. You get one for £40 and it will just arrive tomorrow. We couldn't find. We were trying to work out what we've got a drawer that we've got inbuilt furniture and we've got a drawer, so it has to fit the drawer. So it's not just, we can't just buy a printer. It's too we've made it too complicated, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But I think the printer the fraud bit is like, well, that'll sort itself out. I'm not about to pay that bill, so that's fine. I'm not so worried about that. But the printer bit, and then I drove around. I drove to Bromley, then I drove to Sydenham. So no printers here. And they turned me away at the door. The guy said, "What are you here for?" I said, "Printers." He said, "Nah, I'm really sorry. So it's not worth coming in."
Well, it's a summer holiday activity, isn't it? Driving around South London looking for a printer. I've seen that on the 100 things to do for free in the holidays. Take your kids around South London looking for a printer.
The only thing I'd say is it was me time. Because I didn't take the kids. I was like, I said to Lisa, now I'm out. I might drive, 4 miles or so up to Sydenham and just check out PC World. Tunes on. So, every cloud has a silver lining. So,
well, we're reduced.
So, yeah. And then I can joke about it. I come on the recording and talk about it. So, James, anyway, the beard is looking much more. It's definitely an improvement. It's definitely a trim. How's your week, including your haircut?
Well, I don't feel like a different man. I mean, all these people that told me a haircut was going to make me a different man, it was quite pleasant. Whatever. I got some new glasses as well, so I should look like a different man. And my wife said, "Yeah, you look like a member of John Major's cabinet." So that was not the sort of man I was looking to.
Wow!
Just like in a good way. I'm not sure like you can do that in a good way, really. But, anyway, apparently
I think people have separated for less.
Well, apparently they're actually quite cool. It's just an age thing that we remember John Major and the young people don't. I think that's a good look. It's been all right. It's been a tough week because it's the whole school holidays. Actually, it's been a bit tricky because while homeschool was going on, you had something to give the kids to do. And this week, my work is ramping up, and the kids obviously their work has ramped down to zero. So that's not an ideal combination. But there we go. We'll work it out. This has been a very negative start. We're all talking about having a rough time one way or the other. Where should we go? Should we try and switch to positive first? And maybe Fidel, you can. Well, Fidel, tell me about what you do, because you do this stuff. You're very much about sort of a fresh start, right? A lot of your work is about restarting. If you've had a divorce or a midlife crisis of some sort. Was lockdown an opportunity for either for you or for men that to sort of restart, or can it be an opportunity to restart things to start?
Without a shadow of a doubt. I've actually been, the first few weeks were a bit of a horror story, weren't they? Because like all of my workshops and paid speaking gigs and everything else like that got blown out of the water. But after a couple of weeks, I've never been busy. I've been flat out through the whole time, which has been really cool, both for me and for my clients. Really, they've been using this time to do what you need to do to springboard out of it, really, which is am I allowed to say sort your shit out?
You can. We just tick the box that says explicit. I tick the box.
So look, we've all had a chance to do a little bit more internaling than we probably ever have. No matter how busy you are, there has been stuff that's been taken away, and there's been moments of self-reflection for everybody. And that's great, because people are a little bit quicker and a little bit more knowing about where their problem areas lie. They know what's going on with their relationships. Unfortunately, we've had quite a lot of relationship breakdowns, divorces, breakups. There's lots of people in both of my groups who are living with their exes and stuff because they were just about to split up and then they got locked down, and now they're in the same house.
I know people like that. I know.
None of them, strangely enough, none of them have got closer and got back together again. Not that I've seen anyway. But it's definitely an opportunity to springboard out of this, an opportunity for a fresh start. Unfortunately, job losses, redundancy. So a lot of those negative things, all right, those are opportunities. Where am I going now? What do I really want? There's always an opportunity in things like that.
Is there without giving away your trade secrets that you charge people huge amounts of money to explain, what are the sort of, if you do, either you've had a difficult lockdown or, as you say, there may be difficulties coming ahead, are there, and I appreciate it's a fairly complex thing, but are there, sort of top tips, simple steps that you can take to turn a negative into a positive?
Yeah, well, I have a process that before making decisions. So it started off at a time where I figured this process out a few years ago, really. And I'd set a goal for running a half marathon, an arbitrary goal for running a half marathon. At the time I was doing weightlifting, I was still boxing competitively. And I thought, actually the goal was to run a whole marathon, because I just thought all people who train and do fitness have their marathon story, right? So I picked this goal. And then I started having to train for it, and I didn't. I ignored it, and I ignored it, and I ignored it, and then I had to start training in January. And I'd got to the point where I had to go out and run a 10K, which is about my kind of maximum. But it's like an hour of running. It's just boring to me. Any more of that, and just boring. And actually, it's in total contradiction to everything I normally stand for. But I wondered why I was struggling to motivate myself to do this, which is unlike me, so much so that I stayed in my running gear and had a cup of tea with my mother-in-law rather than going for this run. And I thought, geez, this must be bad. And I realized that actually it just wasn't in line with anything else I was doing. So I was like, how do you do this? Why do we do this to ourselves? We set these arbitrary goals. People always do this. They think they want something, but they don't think it through properly. And they end up not understanding why they don't hit their goals properly. So I'd kind of look back at where you should start, which is with your values. Like, what is important to me in life? What is important to me? What are my core values? And then what are my values in this specific area of my life? So wherever I'm about to do my goal. So this is my health. That's the first step. The second set is your vision. So I work with all my clients to create a vision, and in 10 years time, where do they want to be? It's an anchor that they throw out and create a vision. We do it visually, and then we also do it in writing as well. Really clear vision to put in your unconscious RAS, so you know where you're going, and then you do your goals. All right. So don't come blasting out of lockdown like it's New Year's Day going, I'm going to give up smoking, I'm going to give up I'm going to be a vegan, I'm going to run 10 miles, I'm going to do all this, that, and the other, without thinking actually what's actually important to me. That's going to give me the staying power to see it through. Is this taking me towards where I actually want to be, or is it taking me away from my bloody vision for where I want to be long term? Because you're just not going to do it otherwise. So yeah, have a strategy, have a process. That's the first thing. Don't just pull the trigger and be full of kind of vim and vigor as you burst out of your chrysalis with your beautiful butterfly wings. Make sure you set your GPS first properly.
I like that.
I get that's a mixed metaphor. I don't think butterflies have GPS. I'm not sure they can.
Well, it's the 21st century.
Am I right in thinking most of your clients are male, but you also have so you have a male Facebook group and a female only Facebook group?
Yes.
How much was there a difference in the sort of things that those groups were talking about during lockdown?
So the topics are fairly similar. How they talk about those things is completely different. So I set up the women's group quite a long time ago, but there was so much noise about a man being in it, I kind of left because I just couldn't be bothered to argue with them. And then over about 8 months or so, when I wasn't in there, I slowly started getting messages from the women that were in there. And they were like, look, we joined because you were in there. It's just the same as any other women's group, and it's actually dying a death. And we just enjoy following your stuff on your own channels. Like, you need to come back in and liven it up a little bit. So I did. A few people left, but 100 and so more joined. And they're still in there. And one of the things I still don't get right is the way men and women communicate differently, especially as a group. So something I'll post in the men's group, which is like 3 words, how you doing? Or something like that. Or I have my Wednesday sex question. So that's quite a good one.
Hump day Wednesday. I'm in the group.
It would just be real basic in the men's with a little aubergine emoji on it. And I remember when I first did that in the women's group, they were all like, "Oh, what are you doing? You can't come in here talking about sex." And I was like, "Whoa!" And then I flowered it all out a little bit, same question, but turned it into 3 paragraphs. And they were like, "Oh, I did that." They the communication is just very, very different. The communication styles. I would also say, if I'm honest, the women are a little bit more mature. They are, there's still banter there, but it's not to the same level, and they tend to be a lot more kind of reflective and a little bit more kind of sort of thoughtful, perhaps.
It kicks off. Sometimes it kicks off, and I can imagine you just going, "I'll just let this run." But I think it's brilliant. I think within that Facebook group, there's certainly the men's side. I'm not in the women's group, obviously, but in the men's group, then it's a bit of a cliche. It is a little bit of a safe space for men to kind of open up about and have conversations that they wouldn't otherwise be having if they thought they were going to be judged. And I think mostly that group is pretty supportive of each other. There are a few times when things get a bit muddled, but it's a good space, I think.
I love it in there. And of all the men's groups I'm in, it is my favourite, and I'm not just saying that. It is my favourite because I think the balance is right. Where I quite like the banter. Do you know what I mean? I know it says on the thing that it's not a place for banter and stuff like that, but actually, I wrote that when I was being all idealistic. And actually, in real life, when you've got 1,000 blokes, you've got to be able to have a laugh, and
definitely.
So yeah, I think we get the balance right between having a laugh, cheering each other up, and actually then providing a safe space when people have got big stuff going on and they post about it. The support that's given is a beautiful thing to behold. Actually, I love it.
And if you want to understand why men and women communicate differently, of course, you can buy my book, The Gender Agenda, can't you? Get yourself on Amazon. I've got The Gender Agenda. I'll explain it all.
I believe it's a signed copy of that, James.
Yeah. I'm not sure how many copies. If I've got one, I'll send one. But I know I've nearly got rid of my free pile. But I think there might be 1 or 2 left.
I'm happy to take it, mate.
It's an interesting point. Obviously, and again, my book is about how we get there. Not saying it's good or bad. It's why it's the case. We have to deal with the world as it is. How does that sort of feed into the future, if you like? If we're trying to come out of the COVID experience and create this better new world that apparently is there for the taking. I just wonder how that experience of men and women both having a different experience of lockdown and just generally dealing with everything in a different way. How do we harness that to make this post-COVID world better?
Beautiful.
That's a big question, I know.
It's a big question, but I'm ready for it, baby. So I've done a few talks on this, and I'm probably going to get real controversial here as well, which is good. So for me, one of the most interesting experiences of the lockdown was like when it first happened. Like I said, I was in a relationship, and so she was having a bit of a meltdown and didn't know whether, like, really worried about money and everything else like that. So like I put on my masculinity and I helped her out, and I had my ex-wife, similar stuff, my kids, a few friends. So I was in business mode for the first few weeks, getting everybody else settled around me. Do you know what I mean? Doing my thing, fixing everybody's problems. Boom, 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 boom. And then once they were all settled, I came home to my flat and I was like, my business had fallen apart, and like all my kind of like masculine energy, everything that I've been kind of like working on over the last few years was really sort of stepping into my masculine energy and all this sort of stuff, building, driving, controlling, doing the business, everything else like that. My life was penetrating the world like a good masculine penetrator. And then it all stopped. And I was like, nothing to fight. You can't fight it, can you? Like, you can't fight it. The unknown. There was nothing to wrestle. Nothing. You had zero control. There was nothing I could plan or predict because I didn't know when it was going to end. I didn't know what it was going to mean. And I was like, what am I going to do? And I was like, time to walk your talk. What's useful? Actually, the feminine energy. And this is what I talk about a lot: is that masculine difference between the masculine and feminine energies and stuff like that. And I was like, actually, it's time to step into the flow, isn't it? Allow to just be, to sit, to go inwards, internal, emotional kind of stuff, rather than going out and penetrating and controlling and building and driving. And so I found that really useful. And in some ways, I think a lot of women will come out of this better. And in some ways, over the last kind of like year or so, I've been getting involved with quite a lot of spiritual work, and that's been a lot of the inner journey that I've been on, which is certainly this aspect of divine feminine and masculine that's within all of us and all of this sort of stuff. And actually, a lot of the historical talk is, we're moving into this age of Aquarius. We're moving into this age of the feminine, and in some ways, this lockdown has just pointed us in this direction where we're stepping into this change. There's more alignment with the planet. There's more. We've enjoyed all this peace. We've understood the importance of family and all this stuff. And actually, we've got the female leaders across the world that aren't doing it like Margaret Thatcher. They're actually doing it in their feminine energy. Jacinda Ardern, who's like an absolute goddess in my eyes. Just the way she's dealing with it is just in such a beautiful, powerful, feminine way. Just absolutely golden. She's kind of like leading this new wave. So I think that's the big change. That's the big change, guys. Get ready, because I think it's the time of the feminine. We're stepping into that, and I think that's the big change that's coming, and I'm fully supportive of it. I think it's going to be brilliant.
Something you said there that really rings a bell we've heard so many times, haven't we? And it sounds like at the beginning of lockdown, the phrase that's come up time and again is, it's like when you're on a plane and they say, put on your oxygen mask before anybody else's.
Yeah.
It sounds like you were running around putting everybody else's oxygen mask on.
I was. Yeah.
Not necessarily looking after yourself.
And I always wonder whether I would actually. I always think about that when they say that on the aeroplane. I'm kind of thinking, do you know what? It's not going to happen. I am actually going to put on everybody else's first, and I can see myself doing that. I did a social media post about not doing that, and generally that is something I've learned over lockdown, is actually the importance is looking after me, especially in our line of work, as to keep myself sane and on point and present for my clients and my family. So I spoke to one of my coaches and one of my therapists, and she was just like, look, 40% of your time has to be spent on your therapy, on your practices. You need to be doing your work so that you can show up where you need to show up. If you don't do that, you're not gonna be doing it. You're not gonna be doing what you're here to do.
Yeah, like I said, you got to walk the walk.
Got to walk the walk.
Yeah. So it's been a bit of a roller coaster. At what stage, Fidel, do you think you turned a corner in terms of how you saw lockdown and how you started? Was it when Boris Johnson stood up and said, right, okay, everything's opening up, or was there a moment for you where you thought, actually, this is going to be okay for me, and I've worked this out as best I can?
I think I always felt it was going to be okay. that didn't stop the moment to moment stuff. Do you know what I mean? I'm an extrovert, so my energy levels have dipped. They just are lower. So it's just all been around acceptance. And I think once I twigged that, there was this whole feminine energy. It was after that conversation with Rebecca Lowry. I'll give her a little shout out. One of the coaches and therapists that I work with. I'm blessed to have a nice little panel of experts that I go to when stuff's going on like that. And she spoke to me about that. And then so I spent the rest of the day kind of just properly meditating on it, and was just like, this is just about, you've just got to accept it, bro. You've got to sit down, accept it, allow it, and whatever will be, and you will be all right because you've got the tools in your toolbox. So from that moment onwards, I've been in a groove. It's not every day, of course not, but I've always had an overall sense of kind of calm and confidence since then, really.
I do think the spiritual stuff's interesting. I mean, hands up, I haven't got a spiritual bone in my body, but that doesn't mean that I think you're wrong or anything. And I do think it's interesting, that sort of coming out of this, especially, and on this podcast, we talked a lot about practical things and childcare and all the rest of it. But there's pretty good evidence that having some sort of spiritual element in your life, whether it's the correct one or whatever you buy into, is undoubtedly good for you and will have helped you deal with any crisis that's sent your way, and obviously coronavirus has been a crisis.
Without a shadow of a doubt. It was something that I first came across when I first started doing hypnotherapy. It was this total understanding and belief that we are somehow connected to the universe. Like as human beings, this connection, some people's religion, prayer, it's all the same thing. We spit out what we want to the universe and the miracles happen. And there, whatever kind of ideas you use, even science says that this is true, and we are there's energetic connection between human beings and the plants and animals and the earth in general, right? It can be as complicated or as simple as you want to make it, but I've really got in tune with that. I've been doing I've turned really hippie. I've been barefoot walking. I've been hugging trees, as people who follow me on social media will know, and that's changed the game for me, man. I've got really into all that stuff.
So it's really good for you. There's good evidence that it's really good for you, right? Hugging trees is good for you. For whatever reason, it works.
Yep.
But I mean, the highlight surely of that spiritual journey is being naked on top of some kind of mountain in Spain, Fidel. My eyes deceive me. I didn't zoom in. I think people were zooming. I don't know.
They did. I got some zooms in my inbox and some people doing various drawings on there. So yeah, I went out to meet a colleague, Craig Barlow, the Naked Mountain Man, last week. As soon as flights went on sale, I booked one over to see my brother in Spain. So I was like, I've just got to get out of it. I've got to get out of my little flat. I've got to get out. I need some proper adult company as well. So yeah, I hopped on a plane and went to visit my brother, just sort of in the mountains behind Nurka. And I met up with a couple of people, and we're putting together a retreat out there. So he took me up into the mountains, and he does a thing of this getting naked at the top of a mountain. So yeah, why not, man? It had to be done. It was very liberating indeed.
And I suppose it's Spain, not Scotland. So the weather conditions are in your favour.
I was thinking climbing a mountain. No, that's the bad bit. Not the naked, having to climb a mountain. But yeah, in Spain.
I'm with you on that. It was absolutely awful. It was like doing a lot of rock climbing and stuff, and I do not like heights. He's skipping around like a mountain goat. I think I must have called him all kinds of names under the sun. He's going, no, it's fine. Just jump over this thing. And I'm just like, no, mate, just no. How do I go round?
Is he actually called the Naked Mountain Man? That's his shtick?
That's his thing.
He says what it says on the tin. It does what it says on the tin. He's just a naked mountain.
Naked man. Yeah.
That is a niche to beat all niches, I think.
It is. He does very well out of it, yeah.
Right. Listen, the washing machine's beeping, so and we've only got a few minutes left, so that seems like a good time to wind up. Well done, washing machine. Should we do tips? Having talked about naked men up mountains, I feel like tips feels a bit. That's not a good term to go to. Feels a bit banter. That does.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from our perspective, what be Fidel? I mean, in terms of tips for guys who are looking, as they come out of lockdown, who are looking to do things differently, what kind of things would you recommend as they've reflected over the last sort of 3-4 months about how they want their life to go? What kind of things should they be thinking about doing next in the next few months as things open up?
So I've already explained my values, vision, goals process. That's a really good place to start. The second thing that I run some programs on doing is looking at your life domain. So your health, your wealth, your relationships, and yourself. Okay. So actually having a life where you don't lurch around from emergency to emergency in all those important areas of your life requires you to have a load of habits and routines around those areas of your life. So think about health routines, 2 or 3. Think about your wealth routines, 2 or 3. Saving money, how you're going to pay your bills. Relationship routines, 2 or 3. Put time in the diary for date nights. Manage your relationships, not just with your partner, but with friends, other relatives, parents, kids, and self. Allow time for self. So just put those things, and they're non-negotiable. You put them in your diary. Plan out each month with time for your health, your wealth, and your relationships. Okay. And that will, if you're covering all of those bases at a basic level and you're doing all the really little important jobs that need to be done and it's planned into your diary, then that means when fires really do start, you've got space, you're not lurching around. So cover all of those things off first with your time and your focus and plan the time for them. And then that leaves you with a bit more space and mental ability to be able to focus on steering your ship in different directions, maybe choosing some new things to do, because you're not at risk. You're not going to be cycling around with 3 wheels rather than 4.
Nice and stable, I guess. You got a stable platform.
Just cover that stuff off, the basics. Lurching around is no good for anybody. It's no good for your stress levels. It's no good for your confidence. It's no good for your family. It's just no good. So get the basics sorted, and then you can go off adventuring.
Sounds good. Right. Talking of adventuring, I'm going off adventuring next week. I won't be here next week. COVID permitting. I'm trying to get on holiday.
Yeah, so man.
My tip is basically have a good summer because I'm out and we're off after that. Lockdown Dads has taken August off. And in fact, I'll see you, Ian, in a couple of weeks in life after the
coffee shop meetup.
Oh, you bring a big cardboard to put around you, a big yellow square. So I'll get you done. All that, COVID permitting, let's face it, all of it could go to hell in a handcart at any moment, unfortunately. But we'll follow Fidel's tips and we'll be ready for whatever life may throw at us, right? I'm out next week, and Ian is back with a special secret guest. That's something to look forward to.
The banter will flow. It may be painful, but it will flow.
No, there you go. So, I don't know if that's something to look forward to.
I might get the kids involved. I might get my kids. It's okay. I will say who it is. It's my brother, and I might well get his kids involved, and we might get my kids involved just for something a little bit different. But yes, I was saying,
like Joe Wicks. It's going to be like the end of Joe Wicks, isn't it? No,
it is. Did you go back for the end of Joe Wicks?
Nah.
Oh, I did. Yeah.
Well done you.
I took a picture of the kids.
You can print off the certificate. Oh no, you can't because your printer's knackered.
Oh, right. No, I've already printed it off and coloured it in.
Oh, here we go. Right. Well, listen. I tell you, because I'm meeting up with Ian in a couple of weeks to discuss series 2.
Yep.
If you've any bits you've liked about the last few weeks or disliked, then put them in the comments and get in touch with us with what you like and what you don't like, and we will feed that into the big editorial meeting. And please rate, review, etc.
That has been episode 13 of Lockdown Dads. Thank you very much, Fidel, for being with us today. And in terms of finding out more about what you do, there is the Modern Man Club on Facebook, and also your website is modernman.org.uk, I think, Fidel, if I got that right.
It is indeed.
It's been a pleasure to have you with us, and we will see you all next week for episode 14, the last of the current season of Lockdown Dads. Thank you very much, everyone. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.